is good with you, ladies and gents of the world? It is Nasty Collective here, and I got a nice interview for y'all. One that got me starstruck right now. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. So today on the Nasty Collective YouTube channel, we got a musically talented soul that does not have a catchphrase. Everybody give it up for the man of the hour, Nur-D. How you doing, Nur-D?
Yo, hello. I am doing wonderful. Thank you for having me on the show. We out here, we doing it big. I
Hell
love
yeah,
it.
man. I want you to, introduce because I could introduce you all day. It's just I want to see what your introduction of yourself would be because I don't want to overstep or claim that you're something that you're not or something like that. So who is Nur-D?
Well, my name is Nur-D. You see on the back, and you are Dash D. I've been a hip hop artist from the Twin Cities of Minnesota for about 4 years now. I kind of do a little bit of everything, a little bit of singing, a little bit of dancing, a little bit of rapping, and as well as just, like Dungeons and Dragons and various video games. The boys everywhere, professional wrestling fan. Peep the Cody Rhodes merchandise.
Woo.
Uh, we are out here. So, I do a little bit of everything, activist, community member, which is something I'm very proud of as well. And I take this little jukebox rocket and kind of go across the world with it. I'm really excited to be expanding the range of the Nerdy Club. So yeah, it's super dope.
Yeah, because I seen you do some very musical things, like almost like some church kind of music, where like you're hitting those really high notes and you're singing your voice out. And then I also seen you rap your heart out. And then you talk about starting your music career in rock and roll. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
all became, right? Tell me a little
Yep.
bit about how that became to like be, because I know rock and roll was the beginning, and I seen some interviews of you talking about it. So I don't want to rehash everything, but what even made you start rock and roll, and what was the
Yeah.
performance of rock and roll like when you were performing rock and roll?
So I've always loved rock and roll music. One of my favorite genres of music is like 80s hair metal. I can't, it's the pageantry, it's the epicness. Like these dudes were just not afraid to just be wild and crazy and really just like perform their heart out. It's rare to see someone so in love with music that they can just get lost in it. And a lot of the times that genre really showed that to me. And that's what I really, really love, as well as people like Prince, a Minnesota boy. Prince is huge. I'm digging the purple. Uh, so yeah, like the way that they so embodied that rock uh aesthetic, it really spoke to me. So I wanted to do that, and I still do a little bit. I see it. If you see my performances, you can see there's a lot of that pageantry that I bring over. But that's how I started rock and roll. And also, I was a black kid in Rosemont, Minnesota, which is a very white town, and everyone had originally came up to me and were like, "You're gonna rap? Are you gonna rap stuff?" And I always was like, I don't want them to tell me what to do, so I'll do something completely different. And so I was doing rock and roll for quite some time, and that's what kind of got me into it. And the feeling that you get when you play rock and roll is great. I love it. I still enjoy doing it. I have some ballads that have very similar aspects to what I used to do. And I the feeling is like just raw emotion, music coming through you and coming out of you, and I loved it. We performed. Was in a band that had a bunch of different names uh, because we kept changing it. But like we got to perform even out of state one time, or actually no, two times. We got to perform out of state, so we were trying. But as a big bodied black dude in Minnesota at the time, I wasn't getting pushed, and neither was the band. So it was a genre there was like a ceiling, if that makes any sense. Like, we couldn't really go much further than when we did. Not without an extreme amount of effort that just couldn't be done at that time. So I had to break away, which was cool. It was a mutual thing, and the band was like really, really dope about it. And most of them play in my band now when I have my full band shows. So it kind of worked out for the best for everybody. But yeah, rock and roll was a big part of my life for a while.
Attacking that statement, the statement you just gave me there, I was gonna wait for this a little later, but since you brought it up where you're saying that you were a black man in Minnesota, and that's something that like speaks volume, and something else that speaks volume that I've heard you say before. I saw this video, TED X Minneapolis, where you speak,
Oh yeah.
and one of the quotes I want to bring up from that is you say, growing up in Rosemont, Minnesota, it was clear I was unstoppably, uncontrollably, and inversably black. And then you ended off by saying, sorry. So I wanna ask you, what about
Yeah.
being black in this in that area made you use those adjectives and made you say, apologize at the end there. What was it all
Mm.
about? And I'm sorry if I quoted, or at least like, I messed up that last word there, but yes, sir, like,
Yeah, it's all good.
tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So as far as like the concepts, the adjectives I use to describe my blackness, it was something that, and I feel like a lot of black people or people of color really in predominantly white spaces can understand, is that your otherness is often incredibly noticeable if you don't take efforts to assimilate, if you don't take like purposeful choices to assimilate. So when I say unstoppably, it meant that no matter what I did, no matter how I spoke, no matter how I dressed, no matter what foods I ate, no matter what movies I watched or things I listened to, I was black and there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't make myself not black. It was irreversible. And like the concept there is that my blackness was a core part of my identity, even in the times in which I wanted to hide that that was the case. And which I feel like is a very common experience that many people of color, but and especially black people, feel in those predominantly white spaces. And then the apology is it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek bit, if, because at the end of the speech, it's just like I'm not actually sorry, but the why I use those words is that in my speech I was talking about how race and the conversation of race tends to make white people feel uncomfortable. And so by bringing it up, I'm making you feel uncomfortable and I'm going to say I'm sorry. It's kind of a tactic to lure people into a false sense of security, and then at the end you kind of let them know like actually I'm not sorry, like you should like know like that was okay and it's not a bad thing at all. But and I think again this is something that a lot of people realize when they live in predominantly white spaces and they are not. um a lot of times there is a version of exchanging information that really works more effectively when you navigate around white fragility, which is something that every person of color deals with, is the concept that okay, I could just be like, you need to know XYZ and blah da 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 da. But the powers that be won't allow things to happen if I do it that way. So, and I should be able to do it that way. Unfortunately, it will be more effective if I navigate around their fragility for now until I can get to a point where I can say what I really need to say, how I would like to say it. So that's kind of how that portion of that TEDx talk went, which was a really cool thing for me to be able to do. And I'm glad that it's been able to gain the traction that it has.
Yeah, and to touch on that TED talk there, like, you're a performer, and to see you talk the way you talk, the way your facial reactions were during that segment, it's just like you're extremely talented. Like, you can obviously see how much like dedication you put into like using each word, and how powerful you like how much power you put behind each word. So I really like
Thank
that
you.
about you. I really dig that. One thing I also picked up on is nerdy, right? When you hear nerdy, people already assume something of you right away, right? Like
Yeah.
comics, something. There's a stigma around just calling yourself nerdy. And I think at one point you did say like it was a name that you just wanted to pick up on because your other homies had a name as well. but you
Hmm.
also say that you got a little bit like I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but like bullied on, that people would call you almost nerdy. And it reminds me of
Yeah.
an anime that I like, um, My Hero Academia.
Shout
Um,
out to Deku. Plus
Yep.
Ultra. Go beyond.
So exactly like Deku, where it's like you take that name and you reverse the meaning of it and you use it more as a superpower than kryptonite on yourself,
Yes.
So I really like that too of how Nerdy became to be your name. And I do remember when your name was NER. I do remember that. So that is really
Yes.
cool that, now seeing, progression. And speaking of progression, there is a statement where you say that you're not really focused on making it all the much, but you're more focused on almost being like a pioneer for the people that come after and making like the steps, to reach the top a little easier for the people after you. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think as an artist, specifically as a hip hop artist, I think hip hop is the biggest genre in the world currently. It just is. And I think you have a responsibility to make inroads for people to do things different ways. Um, it's very easy for people to go about making it in this industry by working with people with ethics that aren't particularly great, or losing themselves to the business, or to for lack of a better words, to take their ethics and put it to the side and do whatever they want to do. That's how it's normally gone. You know what I mean? If you don't have a mountain of cash behind you, it's really hard to do it the right way, or at least the way that allows for integrity to be at the forefront. And while there are many artists that have done that, I wanted to create another avenue to show that, hey, it can be done. And one of the best things that I've ever been taught by my grandfather, was, if no one did it for you, you should do it for someone else. Because if you don't, then nothing changes. And that is really the heart of a lot of the Black community, just in general, ever since it started, the civil rights movement. Like, a lot of these people who marched and moved and practiced weren't doing it for themselves. They were never going to see the benefit of that, but they were doing it so that one day other people would be able to receive the benefit of their hard work. And that's kind of how the energy that I bring to my push, and my hope of success. I would like to be successful so that I can show that it can be done and that I can help others along the way. I think our music community has such talent, and if a rising tide raises all the ships, so if I can do well, it shines light on everybody that comes from where I'm at, and I can really just be like, hey, if you like me, you can check out so and so because they're really fantastic. And it's I've been able to do that, which has been really cool.
Yeah, and you can see things like how you actually have put people on to certain levels because you started the Minnesota Artist Relief. I'm not sure at what level that is at still, but I know that it happened at one point, and you did put some money in people's pockets, and
Yeah.
you did that strictly because you say, if you need some money, come to me and I'll figure it out. You didn't say do this X, Y, and Z. No, I'm gonna figure it out for you, and that
Yeah.
speaks volumes. It speaks volumes all the time when I see things like that. So just just seeing that kind of stuff and seeing you put yourself out there to help others and songs like the recent one that you have. What is it here? What's the most recent song you have?
I
My
mean, I
friends
have
are
a
hot.
couple. Oh yeah, all my friends are so hot. Yeah, yeah,
All my
yeah.
friends
For
are so
Crush.
hot. Like it's so nice to see you like talk about certain subjects on just including everybody, being inclusive and just having like fun while doing it and not trying to make it so serious, but you're making it known and you're still like making it have fun with it, and I think
Yeah.
that's like the perfect combination there when you are trying to start movements, when you are trying to put people on to different wavelengths, and how you say there's levels to this thing. And I think you're on a certain level where people are looking up to you because you're doing so much up for others here. One thing I wanted to ask, to kind of wrap everything up and start from the beginning again, there was a certain time when you went to a show to perform for the first time in hip hop. What was that
Mhm.
show called?
That was Shut Up and Rap. That was way back in 2018. It was a little open mic put on by a radio station that's not around anymore. But it was at Modest Brewing on just some pallets with a janky PA system and a mic. And I signed up as a joke because I was still in the rock and roll band. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna sign up, and if I do well, I'll just tell people, hey, my band is gonna be like XYZ, like, oh, hey, this guy from this rock and roll band is doing this hip hop thing. Isn't that funny? Um, I showed up and I fell in love with it. Just I fell in love with everything about it. I've always loved hip hop, but I never thought it was something that I could actually do. It was just more of along the lines of something that I enjoyed. And then being able to get on that stage, even if it was just a couple of pallets and a mic, and just be creative and really let myself shine. It was, yeah, it was a moment that I'll carry with me forever now. And so yeah, I never looked back from that moment on. I was in hip hop.
And that kind of sounds like that's your particle accelerator explosion there, where
Yeah.
that's when you picked up all your superpowers and you're like, shit, this is what I want to do then. Um,
Yes.
and that power that that puts you in that position because everything happens for a reason. I believe that. And the power that put you in that position that made you get over your shyness of I'm gonna just put myself out there and see what happens. That moment there, is very critical, especially for young artists that are trying to be something
Mm.
and trying to learn different things in life. um
Yeah.
I always ask people, what advice can you give the youth or just anybody that's really starting out here? So because I really like that highlight of your career there, and taking that highlight, what kind of advice would you give someone else that is before that particle accelerator and barely starting?
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of things of advice. I would say don't be afraid to be bad at it. Like, don't be afraid to be bad at it. You don't have to come up and be perfect right away. If it's something that you know that you love, the best way to work out all of the glitches in your game is to get up on stage and perform. See how it feels. Perform in front of somebody, perform in front of people, and not just your friends, not just the people who will want to be nice to you. Risk it and be bad at it so you can learn how to improve. If you don't want to jump in because you don't think you're perfect or exactly right, or that someone might not like you, you'll never get there. You just won't, because you have to risk being bad first. So don't be afraid to be bad. The second thing is to be willing to accept advice, even if it's not something that you're going to do. Be ready to listen and be willing to at least consider the advice of people who are in the industry, who are above you, who have come for. Like, people give me advice every day about what I should do and how I should do it. Do I listen to all of it? No. Do I listen to even half of it? No. But what I do is I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to hear it, to sit down and allow them to speak into me. Because even if I don't accept the advice, what I know is that this person wants me to succeed. And I've found someone who I can build a rapport with, so that when I do have a question, they don't feel like I just blew them off because I think I knew everything. They'll be like, oh, this person's willing to hear my advice, and maybe I can throw them some stuff their way, and da da da. So be ready to listen. Take the opportunity, hear from people who are doing what you want to do, and see if they have anything that fits you. And the last thing I always tell people is be professional. It's hard to think about that when you see how, like, the rap star, the hip hop star lives and acts, but that's a lot of fiction. A lot of these people have teams working around the clock to make sure that everybody is spoken to with respect, that they get there on time, that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. The best thing you can do as a young artist is be respectful and professional. Show up on time. Introduce yourself to the sound staff. Like, shake hands with security, be professional. People remember that. The first big gig that I got, I had won an opening slot to open for Buddy, the artist Buddy. And so I was opening for him. They wouldn't let me into the green room because it's like, oh, we don't have room. And I was like, that's fine. Thanks for having me open. I went to the bartender. I thanked the bartender for the waters. I went to the security staff. I thanked them for just like helping the night run smoothly. And then one of those security guards says, hey, I actually run security at this other venue, this big venue here in the city. Here's my card. Like, hit up the booking agent and tell them that I said that you should perform here. It's all about being a good person first and a good artist second. You'd be surprised how often I've seen talented artists, more talented than I am, talked their way out of opportunity because they were trying to be a diva or a rock star or just rude. It's not necessary. You don't have to do that. What you do on stage, don't worry about it. You can say whatever you want. You can flick off everybody, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. That's your character. That's your stage persona. But once you get off stage, you thank everybody. You appreciate the help. You clean up after yourself. And I guarantee you will get more bookings every single time, because that's what people want. They want to have a good experience and feel like they're a part of the night and not just you're just a person who shows up.
Yeah, generosity is the philosophy, that's for sure.
For real.
Thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate it, man. I just wanted to get the people a little insight of who Nur-D was, and the reason why is because you will be performing July 1st at Saturday in the Park, Sioux City, Iowa, at 5 p.m. So y'all check out Nur-D, bro. Make sure you guys are there to see a fire ass show that he will perform. And one last question, Nur-D, before you go here. Who is your favorite superhero?
Ooh, you done it now. My favorite superhero, it's a tie. My favorite two, they're both DC. I'm a DC kid. I love Marvel, got plenty of Marvel, but I'm a DC boy. And my favorite two superheroes are the Flash, specifically Wally West is my favorite Flash out of all of the Flashes, though I am an Impulse fan as well. But then my second favorite is Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, Billy Batson. Always been a big fan of Fawcett Comics, and so I'm big into the big red cheese, and I'm a big Captain Marvel fan or a Shazam fan. I know it's been you got to say both, or else people get upset with you. So I love it. I'm a big fan of both of those. Those are my two favorite picks.
Thank you, Nur-D, for your time, and thank you for the interview. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
And with that being said, NastyCollective, YouTube channel, Nur-D, the musical talent, it's been real. And we out.
Real.
Doses.